Committee for April 10th, 2024. I'm in central office, and everyone else is online. Who else is there? Lori's there?
Lori's here.
Lonnie's here?
Lonnie.
No one's showing up.
If their camera is not on, they won't see their.
Right. Hi, Lonnie.
Okay. Doug and Matthew.
Doug,
both here.
Matt.
I'm here.
We don't have we do have a quorum, so let's go ahead. So I'm Ray Molyneux. I'm the chairperson of the board, and I'm in central office. We have Lonnie DeSorda. Or do I put all your name in there?
Lonnie DeSorda is fine. We don't have to do the whole mouthful.
Okay. Right. Matt Patterson, who's the vice chair. Lori Elwell, who's our clerk. And Doug Fuji, who's the treasurer. No Kiernan and no Tim Kane. All right. So public comments. There's no one here offering public comments. Finance, treasurer's report.
Yep, not too much to report right now. Everything's plugging along. We are due for our last go round of the state aid, which should be coming around the 15th of April. And that will be the last one for this school year. So typically we start to look at setting up the tax anticipation line. And that way there we have backup in case we need it. So within the next probably 2 weeks towards the end of this month, I'll do that process. I did get an email, as did Renee and the other treasurers of the districts, that the representative we had been working with M&T is taking a different position within M&T. So she put the contact of the gentleman that'll be kind of filling in until they fill her role. The good news is he's been with the bank for, I think she said, over 20 years. So we shouldn't have any issue with any sort of documentation or anything. So I'll get that ball rolling. To update the school delinquent, I updated Village last night.
Doug, excuse me.
Yes.
Kiernan will be on in about 4 minutes. Just wanting Kate to know that. Thank you. Sorry.
He's in the waiting room.
Yep. He just popped
There
through.
he is.
There we go.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
Okay, and our last member to show up is Kiernan McNamara. Thanks. And Tim Newbold, the head of school at the village schools. Do you want to go ahead, Doug? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. Absolutely, not a problem. So total delinquent outstanding for school is just a hair over 35,000. I was going to pull the exact amount from a year ago. I forgot to do that before the meeting, but it's on track. I think we're slightly higher, but not significantly higher. And much like the village, there is a handful of folks that I've been in contact with that should have at least made what we call a promise to pay, meaning there's some sort of either arrangement or funds coming through. So again, 35,000 on the over $1 million that we collect for the total school taxes. We're in good shape there. The only other thing that I'll mention quickly has to do with the warrants. You'll see that there is a payroll warrant this month. Typically, my last quarterly payment is made in May, so it's done before the end of the fiscal year. The payroll coordinator for SVSU had to cut some other checks off cycle for the poll workers and things like that. So he asked if it was okay if he cut it in April instead of May. That way he's done with our payroll. And I said that was fine. So that's the reason that, if anybody was wondering why that's on for April when it typically is on for May. Okay. So unless anybody has any other questions, that's all I have.
Doug, I do
Right.
have a question for you, please.
Yes.
I've always dealt with Jim Koshis, who I know is not with the SVSU any longer. We had one issue with a poll worker's check, and I don't know who I'm dealing with now. Who
So
would
have you reached out yet, or you need to know who it is?
I need to know who that is.
Okay, yep. So his first name is Joe. Actually, when I stop over later, I can give you his email address. He's great. He's super responsive.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep, not a problem.
I know you signed the check. So it wasn't, I know, but there was an issue since then, so thank
Okay,
you.
nope, that's fine.
Okay. All right. I guess we go to the consent agenda.
All right, I'm gonna jump off. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep. So consent agenda is minutes for March 14th and the warrant. So let's do this separately. Let's approve the minutes for the last meeting, March 14th,
Excuse me,
2024.
Ray, it's actually the 13th. The agenda
Okay.
was correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept.
All right, for March 13th.
I'll second if you need it.
All right, any discussion of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, got everybody? All right. Next item for there is the warrant. There's as Doug said, there's a payroll warrant. There's also a warrant, an off-schedule warrant for, and I'll just run through these, and then there's the last warrant, which is for paying the bills, other bills. The first of these is the off-schedule warrant, which was paying for election expenses, to poll workers, to Lori for as the secretary of the clerk of the district who ran the election, and the cost for the ballots, miscellaneous supplies, and stamps for mailing out absentee ballots. The cost of the ballots for LHS associates who made the ballots up. Yeah, and there's a stipend for Lori in there, which is the clerk's salary for the year. And then I purchased refreshments for the annual meeting. I'm being reimbursed for that. And poll worker Tam Weber's and Heather Bullock are being paid in this warrant, which totals $1,892.55. Next payroll warrant is the one Doug was speaking of, where we're paying Doug in advance of the usual date. And we're paying me as a poll worker, since I'm actually to get a W-2, I'm in this pile because this is where the payroll taxes are. And this warrant is for the $3,089.56. Doug gets most of that, and the taxes are the other major part. My is $110.82. So, and then the final warrant is pays Lori for minutes for last month and the village school tuition. And that's $145,904.20.
I'd make a motion to approve that.
Approve all three warrants. Yes, motion to approve all three warrants.
Yes.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. That's all of us. Next. We have a hassle of policies to adopt. One to one to is a 4001 is a replacement, so it's a warning of a replacement policy for 4001 harassment of employees. So we'll just go through it in the order it's on the list. Policy number 5080, which is the dress code policy, is an adoption. I have a motion to adopt it. I'll make the motion. We adopt it. I get a second from someone.
One second.
Okay, thanks. Are there any discussions about that? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Policy 5120, concussion management. This is an adoption as well.
I'll motion to adopt.
Thank you. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lenny. Any questions or comments about that? None offered, so I'll move that we adopt it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's all of us. Policy 6100 is library material selection. The changes in this are that, do you know about this, Kate? Number 4, a procedure for classroom library selections. And this is all that's been added, is that right?
Is it in
It's all highlighted.
endorsement, school libraries, Arlington School District, and St. School District? Yeah, so I think everything in yellow is where the policy
Changes,
is been
yes.
amended.
Amended, yes. Okay, so the policy establishes the media specialist position, which is school librarian endorsement. She'll work cooperatively with the administration and professional staff in selecting library materials. So it gives the superintendent the responsibility and the authority to establish guidelines. The first 3 are unchanged: library material selection criteria, material selection procedures, a procedure for challenged materials. And the final one is a procedure for classroom library selections. And that's the addition to this policy. I don't know what that means exactly.
I would assume that each classroom has their own little selection of
Yeah, okay, so
books that the student can take out to read.
yeah, there's a page, criteria for selection, provided by the American Library Association. Procedures for selection.
If you keep going down to the very bottom, I
Okay.
believe that curriculum-based and professional
Right.
assessment and supports.
This is a new, that's the revision.
That's part of it, I think, if you keep going
These are the
down.
administrative rules.
Yeah,
And books in the big item here is books in the classroom library should be chosen with curriculum in mind, with teachers' professional assessment of what sports curriculum is developmentally appropriate. the educators are encouraged to collaborate with the library media specialist. Okay. The rest of it is pretty much unchanged. And, there's, so, because that has a lot of changes, that's why I went through it, but I don't think it, I think I'll entertain a motion that we're warning it. We're not adopting it. So,
I'll make that motion.
good.
Can I just clarify really quick that it's just the addition of that specific books in the classroom is the change that's added there?
Yes.
Versus just like the all school library? That's the only
Right,
real,
yes, that's right. I believe that's
Okay.
it. It's just a matter of what goes into the classroom setting and how that's fixed.
The policy was also amended to include CNK Arlington.
Yes. But that's in the preamble here where it's just limit. Excuse me, I'm having trouble. Listing of districts. So it changed because of the change, this policy was old enough that it had individual districts for the Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School District. And also then there's the addition of Arlington and Sandgate. Okay. So I'll move that we warn it. Any second on that?
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you. Take Matt's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
That's, so we move on to 4001, which is harassment of employees. 4001, sorry. So it's
4001.
yeah, right.
Oh.
So they've this is a replacement for an existing policy which is being worn. And there is which you'll have time to check this out a little bit better, but I guess this paragraph in yellow is highlighted in yellow is there's again at the top there the district changes due to the age of this policy, which is one reason why it's being rewarned. And then there's a change in there's an elimination of the original descriptive paragraph and a replacement with a definition of harassment. And right, some additions and some examples on page 3. Those have all been highlighted bits are all new bits. So we're just asked to warn us. So
I like the clarification and the focus on the updates. I would make a motion to warn or what we're doing.
that's what we're doing, warning it. Thanks.
Then that's what I'm going to do.
All right.
second.
Okay, good. What? Bonnie's second. Any further comments? You have until it comes around again for adoption to think of additional comments.
How long is that time frame?
Sorry, what? It's
Just-
at least a month. And
Okay.
it's likely to be more because it has to go through the policy number 1000 gives you the process. And that process is that it gets warned at the SU level, and then it gets warned at the individual level. And then the individual boards will adopt it, and then the SU, it goes back to the SU for final adoption. That's the process. So there's often lots of time between the original warning coming to us and the adoption, especially if there's an issue for another board. Because it
Thank you.
can't go back to the SU until it's adopted by all. Is
So
that clear?
the other element there, you got the 4001 warning, and then you have the proposed replacement. Is that just
Yes.
the edited version of that?
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what we're warning. The edited version.
Proposed replacement. Okay. Without the yellow.
Sorry, what?
Without the yellow that was in the previous. We got both of them. We got 4001 and then we got 4001 proposed replacement.
Well, you can see what's being eliminated on the policy because there's strikeouts.
Yeah, but there's a lot of yellow in that first one that.
Now, the strikeouts are just lined through. The yellow is new text.
I get that. But as I look at,
Matthew, you're correct. What you're saying is correct. That proposed one is the one with the yellow and the strikeouts taken out as
Yes.
if it were
That's
adopted.
correct. That's correct. It will ultimately be cleaned up to one policy without the strikeouts
got it.
and no yellow. That's what we'll see eventually
Thank you.
when it's in the policy manual. But right now it's giving, because it's a warning, you see what was there and what's taking its place.
Yes.
All right. So I'll move that we warn it.
I'll second.
Second.
That's kind of a tie, so we'll give that to one. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. What is the removal? I don't think I've ever encountered the removal. Which one is that? 4003.
So there's two proposed. So they have a.
Oh, they add the bullying
They've got
and
a lot of
discrimination.
So I think what they're looking at doing is building in the language from this one into 4001. So taking those two and building language into that 4001.
Well, that's not at all clear. Because this 4003 policy is quite marked up.
I think they're adding. They're just reworking the whole thing to encompass. This policy is not needed. The definition of bullying of adult in adult context is not a legal definition. There's some.
You're saying this is going into 4001?
Well, I'm wondering that because of the title change to incorporate both of the two titles into 4001 is what I'm wondering.
No, I don't read it that way. I think they're just altering it, but they're, this policy is got comments on the side. It's got highlighted text. It's got text in red. And I'm not used to seeing so much crap.
It's Laura who's on the policy committee.
Yep. So we're asked to warn it, at any rate.
Okay.
Well, it says remove it from policies, but then why is it? I really don't know what they want us to do, frankly.
Just
I think
Okay.
just warn it, and they're trying to combine, I think,
They're,
two
they're
thousand
adding
four zero
and
zero.
discrimination to a bullying policy, bullying and
Yeah.
prevention. Okay.
I don't know who made those comments, DLA1, but this policy.
I would assume it's Dina.
Oh, okay, right.
I would assume.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I looked at her comments and it makes sense. Adult to adult wouldn't be really considered bullying. It's more so along the lines of student to student.
The district already has the statutory required policies in place for harassment. They're just reworking it and combining. I'll move to warn. That's what we're doing.
I'll second.
Yeah, okay, so it's becoming the bullying and discrimination prevention for adults. Okay. Yep, okay, let's warn it. 4003.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I've not, it's just so confusing.
And there's quite a list here, isn't there?
Yeah,
Anaphylaxis, concussion management, screening.
I'm sorry. No. Those are those are down in FYIs, because they're administrative regs that they updated for those policies, which have been previously adopted. That's in the FYI. Okay. We're done with policies, I think. Superintendent's report is that there's a new calendar for next year out. We won't go into that discussion unless someone wants to. But you can look at did I send the policy around? That's a good question.
Ray, I feel like did we miss 5100 and
No, that's an FYI. That's not this.
I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's administrative regs have been updated. They're letting us know that. So to see it, you would have to go to the policy tab on the website.
And the same is true for concussion management and anaphylaxis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, well, we adopted concussion management, but anaphylaxis, yes, that has administrative regs that have been updated. Okay. Yeah, so the calendar was in the pack.
Gotcha.
So I would those of you who have children would want to look at this to see what the calendar is for next year.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're not adopting it. It's been adopted. That's by consensus of districts, right? Okay. So, well, I put a rather ambitious, too ambitious is what I mean, set of items down here. I was trying to figure out what there was to talk about in the legislative update, and there's a lot of stuff going on Senate Ed, so I have not gotten through it all, and I'm not sure. One thing that do you know something about this BOCES legislation?
I think
You-
it made
You
crossover, right?
should, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
So I think that's one of the ones in the crossover.
yeah.
It's Board of Cooperative Educational Services to allow school districts to have a shared services, essentially. And I asked about it a week ago at our directors meeting, and it's really, it would have its own board potentially to have
Yes, it does.
uh,
Has its own
oversight.
board. There are only to be 7 in the state. So several supervisory unions are supposed to be attached to this. And there is a superintendent separate from the BOCES director who is overseeing it. I don't know exactly how it works. Well, that's the way it works in New York State. Because BOCES comes from New York State, that term, yes. What else did you learn from about it?
Well, that's pretty much that's it in a nutshell right there.
Yeah,
Is, what kind of services might be shared, could be anything from purchasing to transportation to low incidence types of services like vision supports or something like that.
does it not include like special ed cases that are difficult to handle within a district?
Like
Yes.
the low incidence, like vision or hearing.
Oh, low
impairment.
incidence, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so that that doesn't happen frequently enough that a district might have a whole employee for
Person,
that.
yes.
Other services might be something like TESOL teachers, teachers of English as second
Right.
language, or
Yeah,
interpreter services possibly.
right.
So I think it may cross over, but I don't know exactly where it stands at this moment.
It's in Senate Ed. Was it in House before?
I'm guessing yes.
Yeah, you're guessing.
I'm guessing.
I think it crossed over, and one of the attorneys of the agency gave testimony sometime in the last week. James is her last name. Is that the rep from Manchester? Kathleen James? Yeah, okay. At any rate, so this legislation, it's, it could be very useful if it deals with low incidence cases for special education, but where's it going to be located, and how far are they going to have to? And it's not a residential program.
No. I mean, we kind of, in this region, we work that way anyway with, so if we have an OT and Brattleboro needs an OT and we only have the need for part-time, we'll have a person, 3 days here in Bennington, 1 or 2 days over in Brattleboro, and we share a contract. So I think it would just be that kind of thing, a little bit more formalized with those regions that the state has put together, but we work collaboratively in our region anyway, so we kind of do that as needed.
Mm-hmm. But this legislation gives the BOCES the ability to own a building and the ability to borrow money, which the SU does not have. The SU rents because it doesn't have taxing power in order to be able to pay for a building other than, you can't own property, basically. Whereas the BOCES is going to be able to own property. That's what I saw in the legislation. And this is supposed to save us money, which to me sounds like the footprint's going to be awfully big to save us money. But Yeah. So that's one thing I saw. I don't understand why it's been, I believe it's been brought up in the context of all the kerfuffle around the number of school budgets that they have. Because I haven't seen it before. It wasn't, or was it on the first year of the biennium? Did it show up then? You don't recall?
I thought this was a relatively, I think you're, to my knowledge, it's the same as what you just shared, is that it came up kind of quickly. It was really little talked about at all, and then suddenly it was, happening, so.
Right, sprung full blown from someone's head into legislation by council. All right, so there's that, which may or may not be a good idea. New York State has used it for years. I assume somewhat successfully, but at least successfully enough that someone's interested in it here. I know that there's in the House Ed Committee, which I haven't followed, there's been a lot of discussion about costs, and it's showing up at Senate Education now too, because I saw a presentation by one of the financial people in the administration, I think, or in the AAE, talking about property taxes and housing and how the ed budgets are getting too high and costs are driving stagnation in the housing market. That's the point. I was looking for legislation because I know that from a group that I participate in, that they've been talking about legislation that would go through another round of consolidation efforts. But I didn't see that in Senate Ed yet. It was probably in House Ed. One thing I did see in the notice from the VSBA was that the former Secretary of Education, Rebecca Holcomb, dropped her amendment to force districts that close a school to only send their children to public schools. So, not that it affects us, but it could have affected us at one time, but now it's oriented toward anybody that's any district that's close to the school. And I'm sorry, this is an unstructured presentation because I just don't have a grasp on all the legislation that's out there. I probably should go pouring through the House Ed Committee to see what they've been talking about and what they crossed over. Do you know how to get to that?
The crossover, I get the snippets from BCSEA, which is the Special Education Administrators Association. I could research it because I think I get a selected group. I don't think I get all of them.
Right. Matt, do you know how to do that? How to find that?
What's that?
The legislation that crosses over from House Education, say, to Senate Ed. Do you know how to find that? I'm sure it must be available.
It must be on the page there. If you go to the either the House or the Senate page and see what's coming through, but yeah, no, not at the moment.
Okay.
There's got to be some indication of what made it through and what didn't
Yes.
through crossover.
And, reporters usually know this, but I'm not sure where to find this stuff.
I'll send you what I have in my email.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna skip district process. I'm still working on writing that up. I've sent some of it out, but I think it's more important that I can find. Sorry about this.
In a meeting here,
Uh,
you make it. Sorry,
someone's calling.
there was a neighbor.
Okay, so parents sent me a building improvements list, which apparently it sent me before the end of the year, and maybe October or September or something like that. I don't remember, but I didn't see it, or I forgot about it. And so he sent it again, and I thought that would be a good thing for us to talk about. So I sent it to you guys in your email, but it was this afternoon, so I don't know if you got it.
Did?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. All right, so so this is going to be our first facility meeting for this this particular board. Okay, so I'm going to skip the heating system because I think that's a totally different discussion. I did find it odd that the radiators and steam pipes have not been flushed. And they should be every year at the beginning of the year. That was always the one thing that Hayden came over and did in the before, they tune up the burners, and they should have flushed pipes as well. Has that not been happening, Tim? I mean, from the way Terrence puts it, it hasn't happened. I don't know.
I think we still do the regular maintenance, but I'll double check.
Right.
Do they note on the invoice that the pipes are getting flushed? Or is it just kind of
Typically they have
customary that they're when they're
typically
doing
they
it?
have everything listed on an invoice, yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to know if that was done in the preparation for winter at last fall. The classroom and office windows, he mentions broken balances, and some of these windows are quite heavy, as he said. And I would think that, it's certainly something that the district would pay for. I've never, I think we've always paid for that. So I think that those should be dealt with. Meanwhile, I think the real question is, the underlying question is dealing with the windows themselves. And I thought that we should initiate some investigation there in terms of finding someone who could do replacements for this. And so how do we do that exactly?
Well, first,
Holly may be able to help us. I'm not sure about that, but
first, I'm not really certain how those windows have a ballast. Certainly not in the same sense of,
there's a spring assembly.
it's a spring.
Yeah, right. And sometimes the spring breaks.
as you know, I've never been a fan of those windows.
Yes, I know that.
From that previous upgrade, but
Yep.
is it a replaceable thing?
Yes,
Without
they've been
replacing,
replaced in the past.
the springs have,
Yes,
okay. So then,
and
we should do that.
the CL Whites used to do that.
And then with regard to the next item, we need to, I think, replace the
I'm
windows.
not sure that the replacement
Yes,
parts are
but
still available.
first things first, I think they should be made safe, of course, first, and because it's going to take a while to identify someone who can do this job for us, I think. Or it's going to take some time.
Tim, did you say you're not sure?
We can double check, but I think the replacement parts no longer exist, but I can follow up on that.
Well,
Matthew or Ray, can I say something about the windows?
Please.
sure.
So I know that aside from having to go get Tim or Terry almost every day to open them because they won't open, a lot of them are fogged up. You can't even see
Yes.
out of them. So
Yep.
fixing the springs might help, but it's not going to help the fog and the.
No, the blown seal is a different issue. Yes.
I just wanted to say that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, I'm aware of that. So there's that problem, and there's the weight problem. And I think I would find it, there are companies that manufacture these springs. You have to know the right sort of part, which I don't know, but they are available. They're different manufacturers. And I don't know about them being totally unavailable, because I suppose there are discontinuations of particular styles, but there are a number of different manufacturers. I would think I don't know if CL White has told us that they're unavailable. What? That's something that you get done.
Can we ask Terrence to determine definitively that if they can be fixed?
I can certainly ask Terry to do that. No problem.
Thank you. I think ultimately, when he says half of them are blown seals, I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think it's half the windows, maybe 20%.
Yep.
But at the same point, I get it. They're crap windows that were put in the 97 deal. But we're looking at, $80,000 probably to upgrade all those windows. So,
Well, yeah, so we need to we probably have to get bids. So we need to identify some companies that can provide windows for this purpose.
I
And
mean, would this be something we'd want to look into this year with the, circulation project that we have going on? Or
no,
kind of look at, potentially just trying to remedy it where we can, do the replacement
Well, I
parts
think-
and then do it
Yeah,
look at it next year.
yep, I'll say this, when those were done, they were done in stages. We didn't have enough money to do all the windows at one time. So I believe there were, Scott Creedy could probably correct me on this. I think there were certainly 2 different installations. And there may have been, I think there were 2 different suppliers, because one supplier went out of business. So we can do that again if we have to. That's assuming that the ventilation project gets going underway, and that we need to contribute money to it. So that's kind of, I think we need to move forward on the window project and look at phasing it if we have to. But we need to find some contractors to solicit bids from.
Is it
doing
possible that I mean, the windows all look the same, but is it possible they're actually a different manufacturer for those different phases?
It's possible. I don't remember the differences between them anymore. But I know it was done in 2 stages and we lost the contractor at least after the first set. Scott, I can look up the information. I would still have files on it, I'm sure. But
I guess the bottom line for me is that, and Terry's right, that we can't have anybody's fingers chopped off.
no, that's, so I did not know that
I did not either.
these springs could not be replaced. I don't know if that's true. So I'd like to have that confirmed or.
Yep.
And CL White's, I believe, has changed ownership. So, although Brian is still there, but he doesn't work on windows. He only works on, I was told he only works on windshields. So
we'll find that information out for you.
Thank you,
and,
Tim.
yeah,
I'll let
I
you know
think
where we stand.
on the spring balances, yes. Because it's not, they should be replaced as they break. Or else the windows should be identified as inoperable.
Yeah, I
And
think
probably
that's
that could happen while you're waiting replacement as well.
Oh, we already have some windows we know not to
Yeah, right,
utilize, and
right.
we make note of that.
So steps here are to have Terry find out about getting replacement balances, I guess is what, well, no, I'm not sure how that, they're spring balances, that's spring balances. And then we need to
I think we explore the
need some
cost.
help specifying these windows, right?
Yeah, explore the cost of
Right.
replacements for those that where the seals are blown, but those might just be replacement panels,
Yeah,
or
those are just replacement thermal paints.
yeah. But I'm not sure if that's even really available for that, that era of. So I think if someone would look at all the options, the cost of full replacement of those windows that are not, well, provided they find the springs and that all works, then figuring out how to replace those that are fogged.
Well,
It looks-
that's been done before. White's has done that before.
Fix the
Replaced fogged wind paints, yes, we've replaced them.
in what timeline? How often? I mean, how recently?
I don't know recently, but I know we've paid for them in the past.
So if that's possible, that's great.
Yep. However, if we can if we can actually I'm not sure about, yeah, I mean, it might be worth it to, if it's going to be a while, we should replace them. If we can get clear, you know, thermopanes have got new seals. I agree with that. So, but really for the project to go forward, we're going to have to get someone to assist us in what we need to, in designing the windows based on. And I don't know that that's because they're built to size. I think that's, I don't know if we need an architect to do that or an engineer, or if we just go with some contractors who do this sort of thing.
I think we talked to Holly and some other folks like that and just figure out sort of where to go from there. Sometimes there's people who literally just come in and measure the windows and then see if their company is able to
Yeah.
to make it work.
In this
we can-
case, there was more work than that. The architect had identified, I mean, he had worked with a contractor, I believe. And so they participated in the design process, and then it was ordered.
Well, I think at that time they had to change the shape of some of the windows too.
Sorry, say that again.
So at that time, I think they had to change the shape of some of the windows.
They
The
built up,
openings, the
Yes,
openings,
well, because
openings
the
changed.
windows, you know, the windows that were in the library were wooden, and they had some extensive sort of internal storm windows at the time.
Yeah,
Those
so I
had to
think
be
I would
picked
hope
down.
it'd be simpler this time in that you're replacing
be a lot
replacement
simpler.
windows with replacement windows. So,
They're framed in now to
Yeah.
size. So if Terry can talk to, I mean, I can talk to Holly perhaps.
well, Terry
Maybe
can at
we
least
could-
start the process and get the ball rolling, and then we can let you know if we need assistance.
Okay.
On a
Right.
different note, just to give you an update, they came to repair, the roof contractor came to repair the gutter we had an
The
issue
gutter,
with.
yes.
And after the fact, they left they did not lock the roof door properly. And it popped open during the snowstorm.
Oh, great.
And we got significant amount of snow in the area between the roof and the second floor ceiling. So there was some significant moisture damage and things like that. So we have ServPro in there doing the remediation to start. We've let Doxy know. And they are potentially willing to pay for part of it, but we may have to push back to get them to pay for all of it because they clearly left the hatch open
Right.
or did not lock it properly. So it
Yeah.
popped open during the storm. So
Well, that's too
we're
bad.
still investigating how much damage is done. They have to remove some of the insulation, and then we'll be testing the ceiling between the insulation and there's a tin ceiling in that space, so they'll be
Yes.
testing that for moisture.
Right.
So we'll see if there has to be more extensive work done because of that. But right now, it's in the $2,000 range to do the cleaning and removing of the insulation and then re-insulating and stuff like that. And we just hope it doesn't become more than that, but I just want to give you an update.
Okay. I didn't know about that event.
Yeah, no, it just happened.
Yeah.
anything short of them covering all those costs is unacceptable to me.
That's sort of where we're sort of
Right.
going to push back, but I just want to give you a heads up.
So the gutter is back up and
The gutter has been fixed. Yes, they
Okay.
they secured that to the building and I think
Yep.
sealed the seam a little better there.
right.
So they did do that work, but this bit of work is a little more significant.
Was that determined to be fully the gutter problem, was that fully on their dime, and they recognized that they hadn't? They came
That
back.
I don't have an answer for that, Matthew.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was just regular wear and tear or if that had to do with when they did the roof work and stuff like that. So that I'm not sure.
Well, as it's it's at the parking lot, right? For the
Yep.
features, staff.
Yes.
And I believe they had to come back and put that up because they didn't put it up initially. You know, they had to come back, and then there was a problem. That was a little bit drawn out because there was a problem in there. They did the reinstallation of the gutters in 2 different visits, I guess, as I remember.
I think it had to do with lift access and stuff like
Yeah,
that. I think you may be
right.
right.
So, and they hadn't done something properly in the first place. That's why they had to come back. So, I don't know if this is an instance of that.
Note
or not.
to self, don't call Doxy. You know, if you need roof work. Sorry, but that's, unless they're gonna make it whole, that's ridiculous. I don't.
Well, it's Doxy that's got to deal with this right now. Yes. Correct.
Seems like it.
Yeah. And leaving the door open is definitely on them. I don't know about the gutters, but it seems like they should not. I don't know. They were falling off, right? That was what Terry told me. They
There
were
was one section that was pulling away where
pulling
there's
away.
a seam.
Right. That seems like their problem again. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how that
Yep. figure it out.
transpires. Yep. So do we have a to-do? We have a to-do list here. Terry's going to find out about the balances and also blown seals. And he talks to Holly occasionally, so he can talk to Holly about that, or I can talk to him. I think he probably do that for us and find out if she has some suggestions for places. Well, companies to look at.
And next on that list is the gym windows.
Right.
What are we gonna
Right.
do? What are we gonna do about that?
I don't know. I think we need to look at what the problem is. You said it's rusting away in spots. So, would be helpful if their paint's maintained on the outside of the frame.
Well, he's not wrong. That's an
Yeah.
iron. It's an iron frame,
Yep.
and I'm sure it's. Imagine that's original to whenever that gym was put on.
1930s.
Yeah. God, 12 years ago, we were looking at ways to make those more efficient.
Right. We were looking at interior
Yep.
seals, something like the Windows project that goes around here, except
Yep.
because of their size, they can't do that.
Yep.
We were looking at, there was the guy in Hoosick Falls, I don't know if he still operates, who had a lightweight framework that he stretched some polyolefin or something like that over to create a two-sided, two-faced seal. And
Thermal pane, basically, like a plastic
Yeah.
thermal
Right.
window. Yeah, we
Well,
did.
it
that
wouldn't
at
be a
the village.
thermal paint. It didn't have, it wasn't evacuated. It was just stretched and sealed to the frame.
Still dead airspace, but
Yeah, a little
um,
dead airspace, right?
he did.
Uh,
He did those at the village, at the train station. He did all those. Every window up there has that.
Okay,
But what he proposed for the school was something that, uh, well, I mean, you got the basketballs and you got the
right.
stuff flying around. Um, I don't know what they,
Projectiles, yes,
yeah, but,
you do.
uh, you know, you can't just go put new, I mean, architecturally and historically, there's stuff there that you can't pull that stuff out and have it look the same.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if Tim has any ideas, or if you all been thinking about.
No, I love the way they look. I just, over time, they are gonna have to be looked at, so I don't know what the best way to go forward with. If you want to keep them keeping their historic character, I think it's gonna be a challenge and certainly much more expensive, but I haven't even started begin that process of what that might run, but there are a, a visible, part of our school's sort of personality almost. So I think if we
Yeah.
can keep them in any way, shape, or form, I'd like to do that.
It's your
Um,
logo.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
It is.
They're,
And said
yep,
that you said that gym was put on in 1932.
I didn't say, it's the 1930s. I don't know the exact
Okay.
date.
I just don't know if there's like a time frame, or I don't know if there's like
Yeah, these are
you
getting
know
to 100 years old.
exactly. So if there's some sort of like I don't know if this applies to schools, and I could just be totally off base, but like some sort of like the historical registration,
Right.
when you get a building registered, there's grant money for upkeep
Yes.
for that kind of thing to
Okay.
maintain those aspects.
Well, we are in the National Historic Register, so.
So I don't
we
know if
should-
those windows would fall under that umbrella at all.
It's possible. Yep.
Or even talking to Christine Graham, about, uh, they did a whole thing with the bank,
right,
a facade easement that allowed for money to, protect the architectural character of the building. But when you start getting into these grants, it's always like, oh, get a grant. And then you end up paying, more than you would have if you just did it yourself, kind of thing. But again, we need to look into that. What's available? What are the issues? Are we dealing with the masonry on the, around the window? Is that deteriorating, or it's just the iron? But you're looking at another
well,
200,000.
sorry, what, I didn't mean to step on you.
I'm just saying, I guess we need someone to look at the full picture, the windows, the glass that gets broken from,
Right,
and can we get an estimate or an indication that it might be eligible for grants? And if not, what are we allowed to do that would, if we're on the historical register, can we just go in there and brick it up, or can we? I'm not suggesting that, but what are we allowed to do?
I don't think we'd be allowed to break it up.
I hope not, but I'm just, I think we got to find out what the options are, because that's looking at a lot of money.
Yep. So, previously we did do some, work on brickwork. We had some of that done, some restoration of the brickwork around the building. And that was under a grant, and it was to be done to a historical restoration spec. And we had an architect involved, and I don't remember. I think that was John Traver that was involved in getting that put together.
When was that, Ray? Do you remember? In the 90s or?
Well, no, it was in the 2000s because I was on the board, so I got on the board in 2000. So it's the windows were done in around that time. The first 3 or 4 years that I was on the board, those windows got put in. Not the arch windows in the gym, but the other windows we've been talking about.
Yep.
But the brickwork was, I'd have to look in the file and figure out when that was. Scott Creedy may know off his head. He's got a pretty good head for dates. But we, we definitely had an architect involved doing both the research and figuring out working on the grant somewhat. And I don't know, what architect around here, maybe Centerline would be able to help us. I don't know who else. I would have, if Keith and Westner were still in business, they did that sort of stuff. But they aren't. And,
Well, my recommendation is that we have the eye on the prize at this moment, which is this ventilation system,
yes.
and everything hangs on that. I mean, we're looking, right? So we've sequestered money to do everything we can to get this project going. Should that be delayed or I mean, it can't not be done. I think, right? It has to be done. The ventilation, but if that gets delayed another year or two, or God knows what, there's a war chest there to explore these other issues. But before that, I think all these other concerns have to be set aside. Am I wrong?
Well, just to clarify, you're talking about the most recent budget that got approved with this huge allocation of money for the ventilation system,
Right.
having that be delayed in order to use those funds or have that backup funds that got voted through for these other projects?
No, I'm saying that we have to wait and see if we're going to get any bids on that the ventilation.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That
we have to push that to whatever conclusion it comes to.
That's above, frankly, anything other than concern for human life, issues in the building. We have to have that. We got to get through that. Should it be delayed indefinitely or whatever, or, then there's money
Okay.
to do some of these other things, but.
Yes, well, there are some things we can do because we do have other money in the budget. Or we have money that's sitting in the building fund, in addition to the money that we put into the budget. So there is some money to do some of these projects. But that depends on what they cost.
Yeah, so it seems like what would be important to get done, and I don't know how much of this is Terry or how much of it is reaching out to an architect for some sort of consultation, is just creating of the light item list you sent us today, kind of prioritizing what needs to be done, getting more detailed about what needs to be done and what that's going to cost. Because then once you have that information, hey, this is the number one, like we really have to get this thing done. How do we get this thing done pronto? That then we can move forward from there, figuring out how much we have in the budget for that, figuring out which is the priority. So I know that we had talked about Terry looking at the springs, and whatever else on this list that he has the capability of looking at to see, you know, in more detail what needs to be done.
I just intend for him to ask White's, because they're the local contractor glass contractor that we've used, about dealing with the safety issue of getting these spring balances replaced, and then possibly a price for doing refitting thermal panes where seals are blown, or at least some of the blown seals.
Yep.
That we do need to have priorities here, and the first priority is to get the ball rolling on the ventilation. Speaking of which, I had Dina gave us a draft agreement, and Kim sent it to
I sent it to our
Hunter.
lawyer, and
Yeah.
he marked up a couple things. So there's some minor just technical things that he would want us to change, things like where it says town to incorporated village, those kinds of things. I think there's a couple of dates on there that are incorrect. And then there's a piece that he started to talk about that he was sort of just making sure, looking out for our benefit. But I think with us working so closely in so many different ways, I think some of those things we can go with sort of what Dina has put down there, but Mark just wanted to make sure we were acknowledging those things, and I think we'll be fine with that as long as we make some of these technical changes. Then I think we're in a position to sign it on our end, and then hopefully start opening the bidding process again.
Well, okay, so I think that would be something that could be worked out between the two lawyers. So I see the mark, I didn't read the markup, but I see that you sent it to me. So I will forward that to Dina. Did Mark send it to Dina at the same time? I didn't notice something.
No, it went through, because Dina didn't send it to me at all. So Dina sent it to you, you forwarded it to me, I forwarded it to my lawyer. So the two lawyers,
he
I guess,
sent it
have
back
not
to
been
you.
directly in communication about this.
They need to, get
I
together on this.
Yep, I think there was with the things that happened on one end, I think there wasn't communication back, so Ray and I were able to bridge that, so we're back hopefully in a better place.
Well, Dina believed that Mark was going to do the agreement, and because we had said that it would be better if the village school handled the project and was the recipient of the money.
We weren't the ones with any issues with the original process. It was the district that was holding issue with it. So I think if she had issue with it, I think it was her place to write and the agreement, I think can go forward as written with just some of those edits.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't want to play a blame game here, because
I don't think that's necessary.
All I was trying to do was, we needed an agreement to do that. between the two, between the district and the school. For you to hand off to you, I guess. That's what it turns out to be, right?
Yeah, and I don't think we understood what the district wanted in that at all. So I think we're in a good place now, though. Thank you.
And ultimately, at this point in time, is anybody under the illusion that we would get a bid for this project this year?
I would not think that that's going to be possible. I think we're hoping that it'll be extended and we'll be able to do it the following summer.
Right. And it seems clear that maybe there'll be an extension for the grants.
I think due to the fact that so many organizations were seeking these out and they're all sort of running into similar things, that there's just not enough contractors and things like that, that they're going to have to extend it out.
Good.
That's at least what the folks at Efficiency Vermont think.
So then we're in a good position because it's April, 14 months before the possibility of doing this, and that's not a bad place to be. That
Yep,
might
that would be the hope.
That might allow us also some opportunity to attack some of these other smaller projects, which aren't necessarily small, but small relative to the $1 million project we're talking about. Or so.
So, one of the things I thought we could do is authorize me as the chair to sign the agreement when it's ready.
So moved.
Second,
I'm good with that.
All right, are we all in agreement? Raise
I
aye. All right, so I will refer the document that Mark gave to you, Tim, to Dina. And hopefully that won't be much of a thing to do, and we'll get it together so that we can both sign it.
No, and I think the thing about paragraph 4, I think we can probably just drop. But you and I can communicate on that.
I
I
will
just
have
sent
to
it to
look
you.
at it and see what you're
Yeah.
talking
Yep.
about. I didn't read it.
Yep. So, no, absolutely. Thank you, Ray.
All right, so we'll leave the windows to Terrence at the moment, and we want to see, maybe Holly will have some good ideas about what steps we need to take there. But first, we do need to see if we can repair what's needs repair. Gym windows, that's not high priority at the moment, except to deal with rust if we can, to slow the process down. But I take it we would need to hire a painter for that in this particular case, because it's high and there's prep work to do, right? So if you let Terry let me know what he thinks about how we, at least to, because we can't replace them right now. And we should hold the line, stop the rusting as much as possible.
I can ask him to do that. Absolutely.
Well, he may not be able to do it, but
No, I mean to look into
yeah,
finding somebody or what
just
would
let
be
me,
needed. Yeah.
let me know. The two refinishing jet floor projects, those are both epoxy jobs. I don't know exactly what he's talking about in terms of refinishing the gym floor. Does he mean, you know, that would take a little more discussion, I think, because it needs to be stripped. I guess he's talking about stripping the existing finish surface off of it. And then it would need some patching. And probably that wants to have a professional that's done it. You know, you can purchase the epoxy, and it's probably something that could be done by the staff, but then the painting, the stripes would be another issue. And the repairing the surface may be beyond what Terry's crew would tackle. So I think that's probably looking at a contractor to do that, who does this sort of work all the time. And I think we would, ideally, you could do both the foyer floor and the gym floor. They're both concrete floors, and they're both surfaced with epoxy. But and he's talking about doing it next summer, and possibly
They would Holly be a good person to reach out about that to see if she has anybody, because I know they periodically do stuff like this at the schools, this SVSU.
Yep, Holly might know someone. Yep, because they're also similar floors in the system, right?
I'm just wondering if maybe if we even forward the list off to her to see if she has any potential input on people that may be able to help with certain circumstances.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I don't quite understand the lower level passage system at the lower level bathrooms, but
I think what he's saying there is even with the proposed ventilation system, it's not going to tackle the bathroom ventilation issues. Because most of the bathrooms are just passively ventilated as opposed to actively having any sort of fan pulling air out of them.
Right.
Is this the bathroom by the gym?
Yeah, the two bathrooms by the gym. Yes.
Music room, and or what was? Yep.
And it would probably also include the first floor bathroom as well.
That has a ventilation.
Not really.
Does it?
It again, if it does, it's a passive one. It's not an active ventilation.
Everything all right, Karen?
Yeah, no, I'm just readjusting. I'm just wondering, is there any way that we could? I mean, we didn't look at that stuff when we were looking at the ventilation project? We didn't have them look at that.
I think they did, but they said, you know, they probably couldn't necessarily incorporate it because of where the positioning of them were and stuff like that.
Maybe there's not enough room for venting.
We'd have to go back to Derek and see why it wasn't incorporated in it, but I don't think it certainly wasn't going to address the ones in the basement level. It might address the ones on the main level, but not on the garden level or the basement level.
Yeah, so there's a considerable air going into the gym in that project, but it doesn't deal with the stage, or does it deal with the stage? I forget. I think it mostly concerns itself with the volume of the gym.
Was there also consideration about in that project about ventilating the boiler room?
That has ventilation.
Okay.
You know, it has an incoming, you know, it pulls air in.
I get that.
Operating.
I'm just wondering if you could attach that bathroom to the boiler room. It's right next door to it.
Maybe something Hayden could do individually.
Separate from the Big project,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe,
separate from the
Maybe.
big project.
yep.
I mean, I don't know what size. I mean, because with the ventilation project, what size are the ducts again that Derek mentioned? Were they maybe like 18 inches?
Through
I
the
don't
gym,
remember without looking at it.
I don't remember, but maybe
Maybe.
something small like that. Maybe we could have Hayden just
We're keeping you.
come in and look at. And
Actually getting left on.
Yeah.
It's good. Good that I'm not forgetting to.
All right, so those might be doable projects. I'm not sure about where they're going to exhaust, but the stair treads, those stair treads were done, 15 years ago, but yeah, they're wearing out. So, you can purchase those treads. They do have, as I recall, Mr. Coonrat purchased them and I trimmed them down for fitting and then he reinstalled them. He took
Yeah,
the
we've,
old
we've,
treads off.
we've put in a couple over
Yeah,
over
right.
time. Yeah.
Do you have some now?
I would have to check on that, but
I mean, I certainly the district would pay for the treads and the mastic to put them down. I had a jig to saw them with on my table saw in order to trim them properly. Because the nosing was too deep for our tread. But maybe it struck me that maybe he just ordered the wrong thing. So maybe there's a tread that actually will fit those steel stairs better.
are, by wearing out, do you mean they're the rubber or whatever, the composite, that they're worn down so that people slip on them, or?
it's more that they crack and are starting
They
to fall
crack.
apart in some of them, in
Right.
some places.
Okay,
The
gotcha.
wear
That usually is
point
happening before they're
the
wearing
nosing.
down the tread.
The nosings get kicked and bent over. That's where the fracture is, around the nosing?
Typically, yes.
Yeah,
That's important because,
yeah, that's a trip hazard.
exactly. Well, find that stuff, and I think that's building maintenance stuff that's on our dime.
And
Just-
then carpet, what we've been doing is replacing with carpet tiles, right?
Yes.
Now, also for the older classrooms where those carpets were on wooden floors, we would apply a I don't think it was just like a thin underlayment board. I think there was actually a thicker layer and then underlayment, and then the carpet tile was put on that. And we did the what are now two pre-K rooms. Those were done, and the kindergarten was done.
That's held up.
Yeah, well, now in those areas, you've got carpet tiles and then you've also got regular tiles, whatever they are, plastic or vinyl.
That's in Lori's room, right?
Yeah, well, it's in the pre-K and in Lori's room. What was the first grade, but is now one of the pre-K rooms. That's carpet tiles, right? And then there were carpet tiles put into what was the music room.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those are
So,
holding,
that would be my thought of the way we would go about replacing carpets. Is, it's not, it's not a real simple job because, where there is, plank wooden flooring, you have to, produce a new surface that's, capable of, holding on to the carpet tile better.
but then you don't have stretched carpet, people tripping and slipping and on the it's positronic on the ground. There's no,
Yeah, that is the goal, right? Plus, it's easy to replace them if they get damaged.
exactly.
You can heat them up and pull them off and put new ones down. The other option would be to do what was done in the upstairs adult bathroom with that vinyl, but I think the carpet's better. Purpose.
Yeah, the plank flooring is good for certain places, but I think
Yeah.
not in this case.
All right, so I mean, there are people who do floors, but previously, when Mr. Coonrat was employed there, he pulled the old carpet off and did prep work, put under, well, in two of those rooms, we had some structural issues to deal with because the carrying beams from the center section to the foundation walls had to be repaired in both rooms. The middle room for where pre-K is and the far room where pre-K is. So that had to be done first, but then the new subfloor was put down and the underlayment on top of that, and then the carpet tiles were installed. And I don't believe, Mr. Coonrat did the underlayment part, and then the carpet installer came and did the carpet tiles. So we can do that again. We'll just have to find. I mean, he had used WCW for some of that work, I think. Carpet or the vinyl. I'm not sure about the carpet tiles. We could look that up, maybe. I don't know if I could do that. I could look up an invoice if I could find it, but I'm not sure I can find the invoice. So, I'm sorry, this has gone on much longer than I hoped. So that gives us something to think about. And
I think it was
and some
important.
information.
I think it was important to address all this. I mean, we got to talk this out, and I think it's a good way to start the list,
Right.
So I think it was, the time was worth it. But yeah, I think now we need to have some dinner.
Yeah. So, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You okay, Lonnie?
Yeah, I'm good.
You look like you're about to go to sleep.